Welcome to the 1999 Australian International Airshow. From across Australia and around the world, welcome to Avalon. For the next few days, this will be the centrepiece and showcase for civilian and military aviation, for state-of-the-art technology, tried and proven hardware, and all that's new and what's going to be on show come the new millennium. This fourth biennial airshow acts not only as a showcase for the aerospace industries of Australia, but for the Asia-Pacific region and the rest of the world. The large number of official overseas, government, commercial and military delegations attending this year is an impressive sign of what has become one of the world's premier aviation events. The world's most talented aerobatic display pilots are all here at Avalon. The simplest light aircraft to the best state-of-the-art technology in military and commercial aviation. The Victorian Government, City of Greater Geelong welcome you here today. We acknowledge the great support given to airshows down under from the Commonwealth Government, the Australian Defence Force and in particular the RAAF. This is your airshow, your showcase. Enjoy this wonderful view of international aviation.
Well, it's very significant for Australia because it attracts a great number of overseas visitors to the country who can network with and make contact with and do business with Australian industry. It's all part of the promotion of Australia's aviation, aerospace and high technology industries. As far as Victoria is concerned, of course, it's extremely important because not only does it promote Victorian industry, but it also promotes tourism. It brings a large number of interstate and overseas visitors to Victoria, to Melbourne and to the City of Greater Geelong as well.
More than $1 billion worth of defence contracts are to be decided this year. Project Air 87 is the search for a new armed reconnaissance helicopter for the Army. Some of the contenders: the AH-64D Apache Longbow, the Apache Longbow is the only combat helicopter in service with the ability to rapidly detect, classify, prioritise and engage stationary or moving enemy targets at standoff ranges in near all weather environments. The Apache Longbow gives combat pilots an unmatched advantage over enemy threats through the integration of the Longbow fire control radar, advanced Hellfire missiles and an advanced avionics suite. In amongst the vast array of light attack helicopters being looked at by Australian Defence Force chiefs comes the Bell AH-1W Super Cobra. The Cobra has 20mm cannon, Hellfire missiles, tow missiles, Sidewinder air-to-air, Stinger heat-seeker and carries 2.57-inch missile pods. The upgraded Viper version is also on offer, not seen at this airshow. This Cobra can fly at 190 knots, rearward flight at 30 knots, sideways flight at 35 knots, and 3,000-pound payload of weapons and ammunition. Also assisting the survivability of the Sidewinder, air-to-air, Stinger and Heat-Seeker missiles is the four-bladed, bullet-resistant rotor. Another hot contender for the light attack helicopter role is Red Hawk. Visiting from South Africa, Denel present this light attack helicopter, one that hunts amongst the weeds and operates mostly below 50 feet. Major retired British Army and Denel's chief test pilot Tim Mace speaks about the Red Hawk.
Primarily from the pilot's point of view, it's very simple to operate inside. What we've done is to automate virtually all the systems so that all I have to do to start the aircraft up is to flick the two battery switches, one on the left and one on the right, and then start the two engines, which are two buttons, and it goes straight to the flight condition, and everything else is automated to know whether it's working correctly or not. There are no further checks to do, you just take off. It's very easy to start, and when you get it airborne, the automated systems are helping it effectively give you extra time to do your job.
Pitching, 80 knots rearward, pitching.
Spend more time looking out of the window, therefore he can fly lower and faster. He doesn't have to look in to check systems, and therefore he can get around the battlefield quicker and he can maneuver closer to obstacles, and he basically keep his eyes on the enemy all the time rather than having his eyes inside the cockpit.
Pedal. Wing over to the right. Inclined loop.
Mission preferences for Red Hawk are reconnaissance, firepower, escort, ferry and peacekeeping, and in amongst the armament, precision-guided missiles, 70mm unguided rockets and air-to-air missiles.
Okay. 30 knots, 40 knots. 50 knots, 60 knots sideways and holding.
We have built into the system the trim systems and the automatic flight control systems, and it basically flies itself in virtually all modes. You can make it auto hover, you can make it hold its height, and you can make it track and follow the flight plan that you put into the computer, which will make it basically auto fly itself at low level around the battlefield.
The Red Hawk's cruise speed is 150 knots, maximum rearward flight and sideways flight both 50 knots.
Roger. 1 3/4 count, and I'll roll off the top. Rolling. 450 turn right.
Okay, one of the other aspects of the aircraft and its simplicity is that we put all the information that's in the aircraft onto a helmet and onto a display in front of the pilot's head. That means that I have a picture showing in the front of this screen, and I can see the night vision goggles or the infrared picture, and I can see the symbols overlaid on the top, the information about the flight screens and the speed of the aircraft, weapon selections and so on.
Here is a fine example of its operational low-level ability with a slalom. Imagine this between rocks, trees and enemy targets.
Downwing over left, pulling. Side stop to the centre.
More than $1 billion worth of defence contracts are to be decided this year. Most contenders believe Airshow 99 is their great opportunity to impress the Australian public and defence officials. Airshow's DownUnder officials scoured the globe looking for suitable structures to house the expo. This, the largest temporary structure built in Australia, is in fact the largest ever constructed for an outdoor event in the Southern Hemisphere. Defence officials come from around the world to showcase their wares and potentially buy ours.
Well, there always are a number of very important deals that are signed off at air shows. Of course, air shows usually represent a perfect PR opportunity to make announcements to the world about international agreements that are reached between suppliers and purchasers of aircraft and equipment.
This is the 2,000-pound Paveway laser-guided bomb. It was used in the Gulf in both Desert Storm and recent Desert Fox operations. This produced a lot of the imagery that you saw on television of bombs going down elevator shafts and precision strike on bridges. It's in service here in Australia and a highly successful weapon used around the world. This is a recent introduction. It's called a Joint Standoff Weapon. It got its combat baptism in the Gulf last week. It's a dispenser munition that glides tens of miles and releases bomblets over the target.
Baseline aircraft I'm sitting in right now is the S-70, or alias known UH-60L with the U.S. Army. Baseline configuration with some modifications with a gun which includes a 20mm GIOT mass-mounted sight gun, a targeting system with laser designation and FLIR, and extra weapons on board as the Hellfireman.
This is the Evolved Sea Sparrow missile. Australia is participating in the development of this missile. It's a shipboard air defense missile and will first see service on the Anzac frigates in Australia, and then will be bought by 10 other countries around the world, including the U.S. Navy. This is the AMRAAM AIM-120 air intercept missile. It has just been ordered by the Australian Defence Forces. It's the world's premier air intercept missile and will be used on the FA-18 by the Royal Australian Air Force.
This is the United States Navy's mission rehearsal system, tactical operational scene called Top Scene. This is fully operational aboard every U.S. aircraft carrier, on all the amphibious support ships supporting the Marines, and in use with all U.S. services, Army and Air Force. Special Operations Forces use it. Air Force uses it for precision-guided mission training. We use real imagery to build databases of real places on the Earth, so operators, be they aviators or ground personnel, can go in and rehearse their mission in 3D at whatever altitude, speed, or perspective they choose, so when they truly go into combat, they are familiar with their operational and their target area.
call and SCAMP terminal. It's a single channel, anti-jam, man-portable, ANPSC 11 satellite terminal, works EHF frequencies. Has a 44 gigahertz uplink with a 2 gigahertz bandwidth and the receiver transmitter you see here. Has a 20 gigahertz downlink with a 1 gigahertz bandwidth. Has 4 serial ports that operate off of this terminal at 2400 baud. You can connect up a PC to any one of these ports or audio.
This is the Corey Technology demonstrator. We're here demonstrating various aspects of our product line. We have our display products here for the L159 and A4M. In addition, we also have the display for the Apache AH-64 helicopter. These are used in various aerospace and military applications, specifically aircraft and helicopters. In addition, we have a number of other panels that are used in those same applications for master caution and warning systems. They're also used for various other applications, radio control, etc. In addition, we also have our screen.
Tyre. We've got 18 tyres on the aircraft, 16 mains, 2 nose gear tyres. Average landings, 170 landings. New and 170 retread. Cost of the tyre, $3,000. Cost of the retread, $800.
For the first time since the 1988 Bicentennial Airshow, the F-16 Fighting Falcon and the F-15 Eagle came together on the same bill. The F-16 Fighting Falcon from a 1974 drawing board still is a great crowd pleaser and a frontline combat aircraft second to none. With the runs on the board in both Gulf conflicts, the F-16 will go to the new millennium as America's frontline strike fighter. The interdiction capability of the F-16 Fighting Falcon has been felt and seen worldwide. Here, the demonstration pilot, Major Stilwell, himself a war veteran, is at the controls of this demonstration F-16 visiting from Japan.
Ladies and gentlemen, the F-16 Fighting Falcon and the 4-point.
For combat reasons, high speed is imperative, but so is slow speed. Slow speed is an enormous asset for high-speed fighters for repositioning in combat. Slow speed or high alpha, pitched up nose, sometimes can confuse enemy radar. The F-16 Fighting Falcon pulls 9 Gs in this within the airfield boundary tight turn. The F-16 Fighting Falcon can take off and land within 1,000 metres and fits the United States Air Force strategy: global, anywhere, anytime, and on time. Media meets the RAAF roulettes via the back of a C-130 Hercules. The RAAF roulettes from RAF Base East Sale comprise 6 aircraft, sometimes 5, for public displays around Australia. Media exposure for the roulettes is important as they carry the public flag for the RAAF, the RAF's showcase. Led by Squadron Leader Gareth Nielsen, a veteran RAAF pilot and senior instructor. Here the roulettes perform their display over a 100,000 strong crowd at Airshow 99. Here, Squadron Leader Nielsen carries out the manoeuvre, while the other RAAF PC-9 aircraft follow on in tight formation, sometimes within a metre of each other. Ripple rolls, thread the needle, box formations are all a part of the roulette's display. And a real crowd favourite, the Heart. The PC-9 is a single-engine turboprop trainer developing 950 horsepower with a top speed of 320 knots. Range around about 1,000 kilometres. There are no mechanical aids to keep the aircraft in formation. Those following simply eyeball the leader. Inverted flight, leader flies, the other two follow. In their full-time careers, each of the roulette pilots are instructors at Central Flying School. They mostly get together at weekends or for special public displays during the week. With over 500 aircraft on the ground, parking was at a premium. The United States Air Force used up a fair bit of the lot. Seen here, the 40-year-old B-52 strategic bomber. The aircraft was strategically parked on the runway, ready for an immediate departure if called upon. While the aircraft may be old, the avionics suite is right up to date. The new logo on the side of the aircraft is a positioning statement with intent.
Well, we've been pretty proud of it. It's part of our traditions and history. The last 10 years, the Air Force has allowed us to start putting it back onto the bombers there. We have a real sharp young airman named Sasha who does all the painting on it. Well, the B-52s first rolled out in June of 1955, and this particular one was built in 1960. Each the year since then, it's undergone a lot of modifications, especially in the electronics, to where it is now really still a state-of-the-art bomber. Okay, this is the working end of the B-52. It's our bomb bay. Right now, the bomb bay is configured for cruise missiles. This is the yokes that we have in the airplane. They come on a stick with 8 missiles all the way around them. They sit mounted up in here, and you can see the rotary up there. They're connected in with electronic cables, and they are able to be programmed from inside the cockpit. With that information, to the flight information and the target information in there, we would fly to the launch point that's designated for the missile, and then the bomb bay doors would come open. First missile would drop out, it would rotate to the next missile, and they continue that launch. It happens about every 20 to 30 seconds. Once the missiles are out of the clear of the airplane there, the little wings come out, the engines start up, and it flies away on its own, just like another aircraft. The B-52 bomb bay has a lot of flexibility built into it. We can change each of the configurations inside the airplane. There's attachment points all the way along different stations here at 3 different points where we can mount in different racks that give us the capability of carrying up to 27 500-pounders on the inside of the bomb bay. In addition to that, on the outside, we have 2 heavy points where we will mount pylons. With different types of pylons we can attach on here, we can carry different types of weapons. They get mounted on here, and depending on the type of targets we're going to be going against, we can mount either conventional bombs or missiles or precision-guided weapons. The airplane's 185 feet wide and 160 feet long. We've got 8 engines hanging out here, TF-33 engines that are first-generation turbofan engines. The wings themselves have a lot of flexibility in them, moving up and down at least 17 feet or about 5 meters. Because of those long wings and the flexibility, we have tip gear out on the ends there that help protect the fuel tanks that are hanging out here to keep them from being hit. Normally when the airplane flies, you'll actually see the wings start flying before you see the rest of the airplane lift off. Okay, the B-52 has the most modern electronic countermeasures of any airplane in the fleet. Different antennas along the bottom of the airplane and along at different positions all the way 360 degrees around the airplane give us full capability to defend against all modern surface-to-air missiles, air-to-air fighters, as well as the older AAA pieces that are guided by radar. Up inside the bottom here we have flare ejector panels. Each panel comes off and there is a box of 8 flares in each one, or a total of 192 flares. Along with that, the airplane carries 900 bundles of chaff, each one set to a different frequency so we can jam the radars. Once upon a time we had a tail gun back in the tail of the B-52. This one had the 20-millimeter Vulcan cannon, but after Desert Storm we found that air-to-air protection was very superior with our F-15s and F-16s. Since that time we did not actually fly in Desert Storm, but what we did do, there in Desert Fox, we provided the cruise missile attacks. In fact, this airplane actually flew from Diego Garcia during those attacks back in December.
Airshows Down Under and Gillette Mach 3 are about to set a whole new agenda for nighttime flying displays in Australia. Here the Southern Nights roll across the Avalon sky with a setting sun, presenting the opening of what is going to be a truly exciting night of aviation. Former RAAF roulette Peter Clements leads the Southern Nights right over the top of Port Phillip Bay and the Avalon airstrip proper. lights on, the Harvards make a haunting picture against the Avalon sky.
Producing 600 horsepower. And Dr. Hamilton's responsible.
Pulling up.
The inside camera reveals the rolling horizon, graphically illustrating the setting sun, and all four Harvards stay in tight formation. The North American-built Harvard was once the backbone of Air Force training in the United States. Many Australian pilots trained on these aircraft during World War II and post-war years. The Southern Knights barnstormed their way around Australia, and tonight at Avalon make a beautiful picture with landing lights on, a golden haze in the sky, and the wonderful sound of round. These beautiful radial engines echoing right across the Avalon sky. As the sun sets, the Harvards continue to roll. Night almost becomes day, and back to night. The Star-Spangled Banner received a very warm welcome from the nighttime crowd at Avalon. Representing the Stars of Oshkosh, their opening act, Eddie Andrini and the Boeing Stearman with his wing walker, Anders Brandy. Like the Harvard, the Stearman was once a primary trainer for the United States Air Force. As the parachutists dropped in and the sun, all but gone, lit canopies filled the Avalon sky. From the Australian flag to the Gillette Mach 3 banner. International jumper and proud Australian Ray Benson floats gently to earth. The Lockheed Super Constellation was the aircraft that brought Australia closer to the rest of the world. This Super Constellation was resurrected from the American Desert's parking lot back in the mid-90s and today is proudly shown all around Australia. Captain Bob Delahunty has mixture fully rich as the engines of the Super Connie carve a path through the sky like a heavenly jewel. Eddie Andrini returns now with a Boeing Stearman as he punches through the night sky with a pyrotechnics display, opening the mouths of children right around the Avalon field. Loved by pilots and adored by airshow crowds, the Boeing Stearman. Canadian Dan Buchanan made his own beautiful postcard picture on the Avalon night with this pyrotechnics display from under his hang glider. The fireworks display of Airshow's Down Under 1999. Here is German-born Manfred Radius in his Salto 101. A beautiful poetic picture across the night sky. A symphony of colour. An airshow first, the aerial battle featuring the pyrotechnic skill of Rich Boom Boom Gibson and the Wall of Fire. The F-111 goes by on terrain-following radar as Rich Boom Boom Gibson prepares to detonate his magnificent Wall of Fire. A grand finale to the night of light, the Wall of Fire to the dump and burn of the F-111. Here, Flight Lieutenant Ted Schneider from 6th Squadron Amberley takes the RAAF F-111 high into the night sky, dumping and burning fuel as he goes. For the first time in the Airshow's 4-event history, Airsport World was set up just behind the expo. Famous circles by name Kinkler, Kingsford Smith and Hawker carried an array of vintage aircraft and ultralights and a variety of aeroplanes for all enthusiasts to enjoy. Thousands of visitors flocked into Airsport World not only to see the aircraft, but to meet the pilots, the engineers and the home-built enthusiasts responsible for some of Australia's most exciting light aircraft. Whether it be aerobatic, straight and level, gliding, they were all there. An innovation this year was the display of corporate aircraft. Seen on the tarmac up close by the enthusiasts, the corporate world had the first look at these very sophisticated new millennium aircraft on display overhead. The Beechcraft Super King Air, turboprop-powered, corporate and utility aircraft, provides very sleek lines and an aircraft that will take the corporates into the new millennium. The Hawker XP 800 provided a classic sleek look with its low wing configuration offering nearly head-high walking room, seats 12, and when it comes to power-to-weight ratio, Hawker XP 800 is a star performer. One of the more unusual performers was the Eagle 150, a two-placement light trainer from Perth, WA, of composite material and is taking ab initio training onto another level in Australia. Offering optimum lift with forward canard and regular mid-wing, handling characteristics of this aeroplane have been praised by all comers. Seen here today in two-seat configuration, Eagle 150 is soon to be built as a four-placement trainer. All composite material, agile in the air, velvet controls, a joy to fly by professional pilots and newcomers alike.
Avalon Airport, runway to the future.
The price tag is economical, and remember, they are Australian built. Fingers to ears, but sounds that'll never be forgotten. Like this, the MiG-15, Barry Hempel's privately owned Polish, Russian-built jet fighter of the 1950s. A pure jet engine as opposed to a fan jet, the MiG-15 came into prominence in the late 40s and saw aerial combat during the 1952-54 Korean conflict, a formidable fighter until they came head-to-head with the American-built F-86 Sabre.
Expert in his handling.
2,700 kilograms of thrust, Barry Hempel pushes the former Eastern Bloc country jet fighter across a beautiful blue sky. The A-37 Dragonfly is a Korea veteran. Once a light strike bomber with the United States Air Force, the A-37 Dragonfly saw service in Vietnam and Laos in the late 60s and early 70s. Two General Electric turbojets makes this Cessna Thoroughbred look a real picture in the Avalon sky. The A-37 Dragonfly is the only Australian warbird that has ever fired a shot in anger, having served with the South Vietnamese Air Force back in the early 70s. While today's fast jets are very important to the airshow, no airshow is complete without the old favourites. Aeroplanes that made the very fabric of Australian aviation history. Today we're very proudly showing you the de Havilland 82 Tiger Moth, the aircraft that came out of the very early 1930s and today still classified as one of the all-time greats. Two de Havilland Chipmunks and Orion make a beautiful formation here at Avalon. Chipmunks were extensively used by aero clubs around Australia in the 1950s and 60s. The famous Oster aircraft. The Oster played a significant role in warfare and in pilot training. Many pilots at Avalon today would have learnt on the Oster or the Tiger Moth.
They're a superb trainer, the Oster. As you said, if you can fly an Oster, you can fly anything.
And the name that is most prominent with vintage aircraft in Australia, Geoffrey de Havilland.
This is the C-5 Galaxy. It's the second largest airplane that we have in the world. The Russians have an airplane that's a little bit larger. We're in the middle of the airplane right now. This is the main landing gear. There's 28 tires on the C-5, and as you can see right now, it's lowered down
lower to the ground so that we can move troops and vehicles up on top of the airplane. Normally, when it's fully raised, it'll be 5 feet higher, and that's our takeoff condition. That's the way we take the airplane off the ground. The airplane total weight is 840,000 pounds. That's a little over 400 tons. Okay, this is the cockpit right above us, and we're moving up the ramp of the airplane. This is where we would load the vehicles, the helicopters, the tanks, anything that would go on our airplane. As you can see, it's quite spacious. We can haul anything in this airplane. Pallets, household goods, doesn't really matter what it is. This airplane will take it all. But it was actually built for outsized cargo like the Abram tank, the M1A1 tank. Okay, now we're in the forward flight deck of the C-5. Normally have 2 pilots flying the airplane up here, and for our trip down here, it took us 3 days to arrive at Avalon after stops in Phoenix, Arizona, and Hawaii in the States. Up top here, we have the overhead hatch. That's for emergency reasons. Or on the ground, we can use that for observing us taxiing around the airfield. We also have bunk rooms, 2 bunk rooms with 3 bunks in each bunk room. As I move back towards the aft flight deck here, we have a dining area, we have room for relief crew, we have more exit areas to get out of the airplane. We have a full galley where we can cook our meals and basically do what we need to do for long over-water flights. Hi, now I'm on the outside of the airplane. Just wanted to give you a perspective of how big the engines are and how big the airplane is wingtip to wingtip. It's 222 feet wingtip to wingtip and 278 feet from the front of the nose all the way back to the end of the airplane. The engines are built by General Electric. They're TF-39 engines. They put out 40,500 pounds of thrust, and there's 4 engines on this airplane. Thanks for visiting the C-5. Good day.
Air traffic control at any major airshow is a big issue. Seen by many, parking these aircraft is even bigger.
We have a scale layout here of the airport, and we also have scale models of the aircraft there. And with this we can determine where we can fit aircraft in very quickly without having to do a lot of calculations. And we utilise the top area here for the big aircraft, and then we actually utilise taxiways for display aircraft, and further on down here to the American aircraft where we have a corral for the American aircraft.
Just stand by, here we've got the keyhole where the big aircraft are, with the control tower in this area. And here you're looking at movements from aircrafts coming out of this area in a display, coming over there, fire departure in here. In here we got our jet aircraft departing in our display with the American F-16s, F-15s, and the Australian F-18s and F-111s. This is the whole outlay for the display. On the background when we're talking, you heard the radios going from the guys who are controlling the aircraft and the ground marshals for the display and the control of the whole airport during the show. We have about 3 to 4 people controlling the aircraft in this operation center, plus the manager and the coordinator myself, plus 2 assistant managers. And then we have about 250 to 300 people working in the area regarding marshalling, control the aircrafts, control public, etc., etc.
Everybody off the tarmac, please.
Over 1,000 volunteers provide the bedrock for the operational capability of a smooth-running professional airshow.
Well, I'm a bank manager by trade, believe it or not. I lend money to people to buy homes, build homes. And the reason I come here is ever since a young lad I've been involved in aviation through things like this, air shows, and when they announced that they were going to have it at Avalon, I decided to come and volunteer.
Because I just love aircraft. I wish I could be an aircraft engineer.
Well, I'm a retired man now. I had 40 years with Shell, and I've always been interested in aeroplanes. I've got my own private pilot's licence, but I don't do anywhere near enough hours of a course. And I was at the show last time, and I enjoyed it, and I enjoy being here again this year.
My full-time job is customer relations manager with the motor industry in Sydney. And the reason I volunteer here because I like aircraft. I like to see the different types of aircraft that there are around. And mainly it's a working holiday as well.
I'm a student and I'm helping out because my rover crew is coming along and I thought it'd be something fun to do.
Has it been fun?
Yeah, it has been. It's good.
Just a short jet's roar from the main runway is Tent City. Growing in stature at each air show, it's proving very popular with campers, propeller heads, aviation photographers and good old-fashioned enthusiasts alike.
We flew over from Western Australia and we got here on Friday morning, and it's now Sunday morning and we're having a great time. The air display's great, you know, the weather's been fantastic, you know, we've heard about Victorian weather and so far it hasn't lived up to its reputation.
We were going to fly out this morning, but we're going to get another fix today. We're not leaving till this afternoon, so we can't be air-showed out yet, can we?
Here is a man who has no understanding of pain, but every understanding of excellence. 13 times Australian aerobatic champion, Chris Barreau. Curtis Pitts in America built the aircraft in the late 1940s, and the Pitts Special has figured in every World Aerobatic Championship since. Top and bottom of the wings aerodynamically the same, giving the Pitts superb aerobatic handling and making it a joy to fly. His daytime job is insurance and loss assessing. And he's only ever made one claim. Just a handful of years ago, Chris kissed Mother Earth, but lived to fly another day. Out of controlled flight or controlled flight? Your choice. The Lomshevak, Czechoslovakian for headache. Here Warren Stewart flies the single-engine Debonair, while Chris Barreau positions the Pitts Special above. Close? Yes. Only a metre separating at times. Watch now as Chris rolls around the Debonair. Rolling around, continuing to roll. Smoke on, blue sky, you could ask for no more. Chris Barreau is now positioning the Pitts Special for the ribbon cut. Between the poles, holding the ribbon, repositions the Pitts, descends for an inverted approach. Watch Chris now as he rolls the pit special. Sharply focused on the earth, descends now to the ribbon. Clean cut, pushing forward on the stick for a negative load, and a clean cut of the ribbon. To ward off the G-force and some of the discomfort, Chris enjoys a good old-fashioned yell, screaming at the top of his voice as the negative and positive loads play havoc on his body. Man responsible for safe flying and good old-fashioned aircraft separation is former wing commander with the RAAF, Les Dunn.
It's a Q&H on the ADI.
The zoo, always a zoo at this place. This time we've got the ground control as well, that we're controlling the aircraft on the ground, as well as the stuff that's airborne. It's very convenient as far as we're concerned because we know what's going on both sides. But it's always busy because we try to coordinate something to make a reasonably seamless show for the public, and they don't realise how much goes on in the background to sort of coordinate all of this to make sure that what they see is like the duck sitting on the water, paddling like crazy underneath, but you know, things are fairly calm.
And there's a lot of professional and volunteer helpers helping them.
Yes, there are. I've got two professional people helping me, both ex-service, one ex-Royal Navy and one ex-Royal Australian Air Force, like I am. But as far as the air traffic controllers are concerned, they're all volunteers. They are qualified air traffic controllers. And we've got a combined team of about 9 people up here running.
Okay, I'm an air traffic controller, work at Taylor Marine, Canberra Approach. I'm on holidays down here, would you believe? We come down here, we have a great time, great week, and we all like airplanes. So we come down here for the week. It's good fun.
And now the Zivco Aeronautics Edge 540. Flown by Peter Borman, the highest thrust-to-weight ratio aircraft capable of climbing 4,000 feet a minute, rolls at 420 degrees per second and weighs only 560 kgs. Powered by a 540 cubic inch Lycoming engine, Peter Pip Borman punches the Edge 540 into an aerobatic routine none of us will forget. Born in Belgium in 1933 and as famous as the British-built Tiger Moth, raised to maturity in France, here is the Stomp. The Stomp is representative of the aerobatic trainers available when World Championship competition began. A beautiful biplane with wonderful handling characteristics. And as the pilots say, like the Tiger, it's got to be flown both feet and hands. Keeping these grand old aeroplanes in balance is a real trick. This time 300 horses come in the form of the Extra 300.
I've been flying serious aerobatics for about 6 or 7 years. I fly the occasional air show, but I'm mostly into competition flying, and the competition is the ultimate test of skill.
The stuff of dreams, built in Germany by Walter Extra, the Extra 300 has a Lycoming engine with 540 cubic inch performance. The Extra 300 is an incredible combination of power and strength with climb performance and ease of control, absolutely breathtaking.
The routine you fly is very much practiced. It looks like it's ad-libbed and it looks like it's a lot of fun and you just go up there and throw the aeroplane around the sky, but an air show sequence should be just as disciplined as any other competition sequence. And we design a sequence, practice it and work it up and put it all together so that it's well practiced, it's predictable, and because it's predictable, it's safe.
This fuel-injected Extra 300 comes in single-seat and dual-seat variant. The airframe is stressed to 10 positive and 8 negative Gs.
It is quite hard work. You've just got to prepare yourself for the G and make sure you're well hydrated. You've drunk a lot of water and just get out there and have some fun. And it is great fun. It really is fantastic fun.
Flying downwind, Tom Moon positions the aircraft for a reciprocal landing on the main runway at Avalon. Part of the glamour and colour of air shows down under, these are the aero chutes. A simple sports canopy that's very easy to control, safe flying, inexpensive, widely used by hobby farmers. Aero chutes and powered hang gliders are popular with police agencies around the world using them for traffic control. This interesting little gyrocopter comes from Saskatchewan in Canada, but now distributed out of Ballarat here in Victoria. Paul Britty pushes the RAF 2000 rotary Air Force aircraft through the Avalon sky in a very simple but effective demonstration. Popular for cattle mustering and hobby flying. Lockheed Martin is pleased to introduce the next generation C-130 Hercules. Maximum power takeoff as the Lockheed Martin test crew prepare to put the C-130J-30 through its paces. Preparing now for its high-speed pass and rapid acceleration, the new generation C-130 Herc has got all the grunt in the world to escape enemy fire and move quickly away from hostile environments. What doesn't show from the outside is a virtually new suite of avionics and cockpit displays. This C-130 Herc has dual head-up displays for the pilot. The cockpit has 4 liquid crystal head-down displays which can be used for radar, digital map, engine instruments, system status, as well as other tactical information. The all-new C-130J has been designed to operate with just 2 pilots and a loadmaster. Many of the functions manually operated and monitored by the flight crew in previous Hercs has been automated or turned over to the mission computers. The task of flying the C-130J has been augmented by dual digital autopilots and auto throttles. A dual angle of attack system provides stall warning protection and improved situational awareness. More than 2,100 C-130s have been built, and Australia has operated them for nearly 40 years. The replacement J model will be very welcome later this year. The head-up displays allows the flight crew to fly a more precise short field approach with a higher degree of safety. Here the final landing demonstrates the smooth response of the engines and the capability of the new digitally controlled anti-skid brakes. Light aircraft, heavy aircraft, and the United States Air Force strongly represented at Avalon with the F-15 Eagle.
I've been real fortunate. I've flown the F-15 now for a little over 10 years straight, and haven't done anything else, so that's kind of a rarity in the Air Force. Usually you need to go off and do a staff job or something like that, and I've been fortunate and blessed enough to be able to continue to fly the F-15. It's a real power display that I do. Max performance takeoff. On into a split S, come back through for a high-speed pass at about 1,100 kilometers per hour by the crowd.
The McDonnell Douglas Eagle is the primary combat aircraft in the United States Air Force. It's designed to take control of the skies and keep control.
And then I'll show some of the precision characteristics of the F-15 as well, with 4-point roll, aileron rolls, things along those lines.
None lost in combat, and they've been serving the United States since 1974.
Like any athlete would enjoy getting up for the big game. It's the same feeling, a little bit of butterflies before you go in there, and then a lot of intensity. So it continues to be challenging, even though I've done it so long. It's always a challenge. Every day is different, every flight is different. You can always find a good challenge with it.
Like the F-111, the silhouette remains much the same as the 1970s classic design of the avionics upgrade program, and what's new on the inside makes this combat aircraft state-of-the-art.
any good airplane or fighter pilot would know, if you can't fly slow as well as fast, then it's not a great airplane either. So I'll come back and I show some of the slow speed handling of the plane as well during the performance. So it's a power, precision, and performance display. Well, the F-15 Eagle, it's the Air Force's premier air superiority fighter. It's an airplane that's designed and built to do all assets of the air superiority mission, shoot down other airplanes, and does it very well. During the Gulf War, we shot down 41 Iraqi fighters, and there's never been an F-15 ever shot down in combat. So.
Another of the stars of Oshkosh, Bob Hoover, the man described as the pilot's pilot and the greatest living pilot, a decorated World War II hero, recipient of the Aviation Pioneer Award as the world's most notable and respected living pilot, and recipient of the Lindbergh Award at the Smithsonian. Someone forgot to tell Bob Hoover that at the ripe old age of 76, he should be tending the garden or tapping golf balls. Instead, Bob Hoover insists on putting his twin-engine Rockwell Commander through aerobatic routines filled with daredevil abandon and sheer genius that have earned him the title, the world's greatest living pilot.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't designed or intended to be flown that way, but many years ago, when the airplane was relatively new, the company who were building them asked me if I could do anything to instill confidence in the would-be buyers of this airplane. It's a twin-engine business, pleasure-type aircraft. Any airplane will do whatever you ask of it, as long as you don't exceed its design limits. So the problem is developing a technique that will keep you within the design envelope of the airplane and within your own capabilities. And it's really that simple. The airplane doesn't understand anything but airspeed and how it's being flown. Essentially, you could do the same thing with a 747.
Bob Hoover's energy management program is a sight to behold.
I like to work the red line, the reason being the energy management portion of it, where I have both engines shut down. You need maximum speed in order to convert one form of energy to another. For example, you're converting altitude into airspeed, airspeed into maneuvering capability, and you just play one form of energy against the other until suddenly you have no more energy at the point here where I get out of the airplane. The energy's all gone.
No power, but optimizing aircraft performance, Bob Hoover makes his approach. In a state of energy decay, Bob now rolls the aircraft down the Avalon runway. At the other end, commentator Gordon Bowman-Jones. The object of the exercise is for Bob to place the engine spinner into Gordon's hand. Will he make it? No. Yes, he might.
certainly enjoy coming down here to Australia. It's my adopted homeland, and I'm always happy to be here.
During the Vietnam conflict, Australia's Army 161 Reconnaissance Squadron played a vital role in forward air control. Here, a bird dog simulates a Vietnam War manoeuvre in identifying the target, return home, or transmit the target location. Now the T-28s, the Trojans, on call from bird dog, make their strafing run. The former United States Navy trainer makes a direct hit. The bird dog takes a second look. Meanwhile, on the ground, Rich Boom Boom Gibson prepares for the wall of fire. The T-28s find their target. Rich Boom Boom Gibson at work again. Warbirds recreating a scene from yesteryear, the T-28s and the bird dog. RAAF Richmond is home to the Air Force Mid-Air Refuelling Team. The Boeing 707 departs in readiness for the mid-air refuelling demonstration. 3 Squadron RAAF Hornet departs. RAAF Hornet from 3 Squadron departs. Here, Flight Lieutenant Steve Roberton punches the 3 Squadron Hornet through the Avalon sky in a series of manoeuvres renowned only to the Hornet. Carrying more fuel and more armament than the F-16, capable of slower flight, the FA-18 is a thoroughbred interdiction fighter. This tight turn shows the Hornet operating within the confines of the Avalon Airport. Having come into service in 1985, the RAAF Hornet, with the recent avionics upgrade program, is expected to continue until the year 2015. Steep nose or high alpha is a strong feature of the FA-18. Airspeed about 110 knots. In this wind, ground speed around about 80 knots. Simulated mid-air refueling. Normally carried out at 30,000 feet, here just a little bit low to plug in. So we have a simulated mid-air refuel. Now for his encore, an aerobatics ace of more than 30 years standing, Eddie Andrini and the Wing Walker. And as brandy at times is only Velcroed to the aircraft, However, when he moves around, he does look for a hard point and wires on.
Yeah, I used to be afraid of flying, believe it or not. And the ultimate cure for it is take flying lessons. One of the things when people become afraid of something is that when they don't understand, they don't know what's going on. And when you learn to fly, you take flying lessons and you figure out what's going on and you understand the whole concept of flight, well then you know it's not that bad, it's not that dangerous.
This is one of the rare times you'll see Anders actually fixed to the aircraft.
That was my step one to overcome fear of flying. And then the next one, you just work on it and you practice some aerobatic, and next thing you know, you might out there walking on wings. You never know. You never know where you're going to end up.
At times, the powerful Boeing Stearman biplane gives Anders a pretty rough ride. Eddie Andrini is a household name in America, barnstorming his way from airshow to airshow. His displays are reminiscent of the airshows from the 1930s.
Something that's always been fun and has been a release for me. Early on when I first started to do it, when I was at work and things would get tough at work and stuff, I would get in the airplane and go flying for about 20, 30 minutes at aerobatics. And boy, it would just clear up your mind. You come back and you were ready to go to work again. So for me, it was a release at the beginning. It was really great. And then it got to where I liked it and I did more and more and more. And then next thing you know, doing air shows and stuff. So that, and now it's a satisfaction for doing shows because I'm able to do something that people enjoy and stuff. The wing walk is more work. It's more because I have another person there, so everything has to be done a little bit differently. Things have to be very more gentle, and you can't jerk very hard because a person sometimes even when he's up in the top, he only has his feet in a stirrup, and he only has a belt around him, so he can't take very many G's. And then when he gets ready to move around from one position to another, then I have to slow down under 80 miles an hour. Just so, because or else the wind force gets too great against them and move around, and then it could be risky for them.
You got to communicate. You got to know each other in and out. Say that he just wiggles the stick a little bit, shakes the airplane. I look at him and I know exactly what he's going to do. Little signals. The way he flies, I can determine what he's going to do next.
We have a fixed routine that we do of where we start, and then whenever before he moves a position, I give him an okay sign to move. And if I want him to not acknowledge me for some reason, I'll just wiggle the stick up real quickly, and he looks at me. And wherever he's at, I can see him all the time. Even when he's up top, I can see him very well. The only place that I can't see him is when he's sitting on the bottom wing and he's hanging down below. And then I do the inverted pass upside down, and he's sitting on top, and I can't see him.
Look, Mum, no hands. Eddie rolls the aircraft, and Anders is right way up again. Or is that wrong way down?
This is how I release stress. So it kind of calms me down a little bit to do something like this, to do something exciting. I highly suggest to people to do something that makes them excited. Doesn't matter what it is, but just go ahead and do it on Sundays or whenever you feel like it, and then go back to work. And maybe not wing walking for everybody, but there's something for everybody. You just got to find it.
No aircraft's introduction into RAAF service has been as controversial as that of the F-111. Conceived in the early 60s as the TFX, Tactical Fighter Experimental, the F-111 was to provide a strike capability to the United States Air Force Tactical Air Command with the F-111A. In Australia, the F-111s are operated by 1 and 6 Squadrons Strike Reconnaissance Group RAAF Amberley. Here, Flight Lieutenant Ted Schneider flies the F-111G model with wings in the forward position. The F-111's swing wing capability takes the wings back to 72 degrees position. From a late 1950s drawing board to a prototype flight in 1964 and a 1974 RAAF delivery, the F-111 will have legs well into the new millennium. The recent avionics upgrade program will see the F-111 in service until the year 2020. Now, a haunting sight with the wings fully swept. The F-111 is a remarkable aircraft. With its long range and weapons carrying capability, its avionics fit, which allows all-weather strike, and by virtue of the terrain-following radar allowing low-level penetration to the target, the F-111 is unique, and to date, no viable replacement has emerged. Assisted by Flight Lieutenant Lyle Holt, navigator, Ted Schneider punches the F-111 into the dump and burn. This routine is carried out by the pilot releasing fuel into the hot exhaust stream at the rear of the aircraft. The fuel ignites and bingo. On behalf of the Aerospace Foundation of Australia, thank you one and all for coming to Avalon. Your presence is a signature to the future of this air show. From the aerospace industry of Australia, thank you to all of our overseas guests and defence leaders from around the world. Thank you to the hundreds of volunteers who have helped put the show together. Safe driving, and we look forward to seeing you in 2001 at Airshows Down Under.